What if the reason someone pulls away from you is not because of what you said, but because of how your energy felt when you said it? Because in relationships, words are never the real message. Your emotional state is. And there is one simple shift in how you speak that completely changes how a man feels in your presence. Not louder words, not perfect words, but calmer, clearer, emotionally aligned words. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said something that was completely true, but it still created distance instead of connection? Not because your truth was wrong, but because your energy behind it was unsettled. This is where most people misunderstand communication. It is not just what you say, it is what you are transmitting while you say it. Stay with me, because once you understand this, you stop trying to force people to understand you and start learning how to be felt instead of argued with. What if I told you that the most powerful thing you will ever say to a man is not loud, not clever, and not even seductive? It does not shout for attention, and it does not chase it. It does not try to control, impress, or manipulate. In fact, it is almost invisible when it is spoken. It is soft, simple, and grounded. It feels like a whisper rather than a command. But when it comes from truth, from emotional alignment, from inner stillness, it carries more weight than anything dramatic. Because what matters is not the sentence itself, but the state you are in when you say it. And that is what makes it unforgettable. There is a moment in communication when your presence becomes more powerful than your words. It happens when your energy is calm, steady, and fully aligned with who you are. In that moment, you are not trying to prove anything or win anything. You are simply being. And strangely, that is when people feel you the most. A man may forget exact words, but he never forgets how your energy made him feel. When your calm presence speaks before your mouth does, your words stop being just communication. They become connection. They enter deeper than logic and stay longer than memory. There is a silent truth that controls how people respond to you before you even speak. Long before a sentence is fully formed on your lips, your emotional state has already entered the space. People feel it before they understand it. This is why communication is not just about words, timing, or tone. It is about energy. Energy is the real language beneath language. It cannot be faked for long, and it cannot be hidden completely. This is why two people can say the exact same sentence, but only one will move a heart, shift the mood, or change a room instantly. Many people believe communication is about saying the right thing in the right way. They focus on perfect wording, charm, persuasion, or logic. But the deeper truth is that communication begins at the level of energy, not language. When your inner state is calm, your words carry calmness. When your inner state is anxious, your words carry tension, even if they sound polite. People do not only hear your words, they feel your nervous system. This is why someone can speak perfectly and still feel disconnected, while another person speaks simply and creates instant emotional impact. In relationships, this difference becomes extremely important. A woman who is grounded in her emotional state speaks differently. She is not scattered, not reactive, and not constantly seeking reassurance. Her energy feels stable, and that stability is felt by the man she is speaking to. She does not try to force attention or chase validation. Instead, she naturally draws attention through presence. This kind of woman does not compete for space in a room. She becomes the space. And because of that, her words carry weight, even when they are soft and simple. A man, especially one who is emotionally aware or grounded in his masculine nature, is highly sensitive to the energy behind a woman's words. He may not be able to explain it logically, but he feels it instantly. He feels whether she is speaking from fear or from wholeness, from insecurity or from clarity, from neediness or from calm truth. And this feeling quietly shapes his response, not just in that moment, but in how he connects with her afterward. Energy sets the direction of attraction more than any words ever could. There is a kind of sentence that changes everything, but only when it is spoken from emotional alignment. It does not begin with blame, pressure, or accusation. It does not say things like, "you never," or "why don't you?" Those kinds of words create distance. They trigger defense and close emotional doors. Instead, aligned communication begins with truth. It sounds more like, "I feel," or "it means a lot to me when." These phrases do not attack, they invite. They open space instead of closing it. That is where real connection begins. What most people do not realize is that human beings are emotionally contagious. We naturally mirror the emotional state of others. This is not just psychology, it is biology. When someone speaks from stress, others feel tension. When someone speaks from calmness, others begin to relax. When a woman speaks from grounded emotional clarity, the man in front of her begins to mirror that same clarity. This is how emotional states transfer silently between people, not through logic, but through presence. That is why energy often matters more than explanation. Let us understand this through a simple example. A woman feels ignored because her partner comes home distracted and distant. At first, she reacts emotionally. She complains, questions him, and tries to get his attention through frustration. But instead of improving, the distance grows. One day, she pauses and reflects. She realizes her reaction is coming from loneliness, not anger. That night, instead of blaming him, she speaks softly. She expresses that she feels more loved when they connect at the beginning of the day. This time, he responds differently. Her words did not change because they were louder or stronger. They changed because her energy changed. She was no longer speaking from emotional chaos. She was speaking from emotional clarity. And that shift made her message feel safe instead of threatening. The man did not feel attacked, so he did not defend himself. Instead, he responded naturally. He moved closer instead of pulling away. This is the power of emotional alignment. It does not force change. It creates the conditions where change happens naturally without resistance or pressure. This is why inner stillness is not optional in communication. It is essential. Without emotional regulation, even loving words can carry hidden tension. People respond more to what your body is communicating than what your mouth is saying. If your nervous system is anxious, your message will feel unstable. If your nervous system is calm, your message will feel safe. That is why learning to pause before speaking is so powerful. In that pause, you shift from reaction to awareness, and awareness is where real influence begins. There is something deeply magnetic about silence and stillness. Silence is not emptiness. It is awareness without noise. When you are silent inside, you can hear your true emotional state clearly. You stop speaking from fear and you start speaking from truth. That is when your words carry depth. A woman who is present, who listens fully, who speaks slowly and without rushing, becomes unforgettable. She is not trying to impress anyone. She is simply grounded in herself. And that grounded presence speaks louder than any performance ever could. Presence is a form of emotional power that does not need force. It does not demand attention, yet it naturally receives it. It is not about being passive or silent all the time. It is about being fully rooted in yourself while interacting with others. A woman who has presence does not panic in silence, and she does not chase connection in anxiety. She allows space, and in that space, people feel safe. That safety is what creates emotional attraction. Not pressure, not urgency, but calm emotional stability. This kind of presence is built through small daily habits. One of the simplest is breath awareness. When you feel emotional tension, you pause and return to your breath. You feel the air moving in and out of your body. You slow down your internal world. This simple act shifts you from reaction to awareness. Over time, it trains your nervous system to stay calm even during emotional triggers. And when your nervous system is calm, your communication becomes naturally aligned, not forced, not rehearsed, but real and grounded. Many people struggle in relationships because they speak from emotional urgency instead of emotional clarity. They speak to release pressure, not to create understanding. But communication built on urgency often creates resistance. The more you push emotionally, the more the other person pulls away. This is not because they do not care, but because pressure triggers defense. When you shift from urgency to clarity, everything changes. Your words stop pushing and start inviting. An invitation is always more powerful than pressure. There is a deeper truth in all of this. People do not resist connection. They resist control. When they feel controlled, they pull away. When they feel invited, they lean in. This is why language matters, but energy matters more. A calm statement can open hearts. A pressured statement can close them instantly. The difference is not in vocabulary, but in emotional state. When you understand this, you stop trying to force outcomes. You start focusing on alignment instead. And alignment always speaks louder than effort. In the end, the most powerful communication is not about what you say, but who you are when you say it. When your thoughts, emotions, and words are aligned, people feel it instantly. There is no confusion in your presence. There is no tension in your delivery. Everything flows naturally. And that flow is rare. In a world filled with noise, urgency, and emotional instability, a calm, grounded voice becomes unforgettable. Not because it is louder, but because it is real. And real presence always leaves a lasting imprint. You are centered. And this is exactly why inner alignment is not just a personal achievement, but a relational gift you offer to everyone around you. When a woman is aligned, she no longer sends mixed signals. Her words, her body language, and her emotional state all move in the same direction. There is no contradiction between what she says and what she feels. Her yes is honest, and her no is steady. Her boundaries are not sharp or aggressive, but calm and clear. She is not performing strength. She is simply grounded in it. And this kind of presence creates emotional safety because people no longer have to guess what she truly means. There was a woman who once told her partner, "I'm okay," even though she clearly wasn't. Her tone was tight, her expression closed, and her energy felt distant. Even though the words sounded fine, the message was confusing. He could feel that something was wrong, but he didn't know how to respond, so he stepped back emotionally. That distance grew between them. Later, after reflecting in silence and journaling her feelings, she returned with clarity. This time she said, "Earlier I said I was okay, but I wasn't. I felt unseen, and that hurt me. I want us to talk when things happen." Her presence was calm, and this time he truly heard her. Presence brings clarity, and clarity creates connection. There is a reason why many men withdraw from emotionally intense situations. It is not because they do not care or lack feelings. It is often because ungrounded emotional expression feels overwhelming to their nervous system. When emotion comes out in panic, rage, or uncontrolled anxiety, it creates internal confusion instead of understanding. But when emotion is expressed in a regulated way, even sadness or disappointment becomes something that can be held safely. Men are not resistant to emotion itself. They are resistant to emotional chaos that feels unpredictable and unstable. This is where the breath becomes one of your most powerful tools. Before you speak, pause and take a slow breath. Let it move deeply into your body instead of staying shallow in your chest. Feel the moment instead of reacting to it instantly. Ask yourself a simple question. Am I speaking from clarity or from urgency? Because urgency is not the same as importance. Many things feel urgent in emotion, but not all of them need immediate expression. Sometimes wisdom is not in speaking faster, but in waiting until the emotion settles enough for truth to become visible and steady. Silence, when held with awareness, is not weakness. It is emotional intelligence in action. There is an old teaching that says wise people speak because they have something meaningful to share, while others speak because they feel they must respond immediately. The more aligned you become with your inner world, the less you speak from impulse. You begin to notice how certain words bring peace, while others create tension or confusion. Slowly, you become more intentional with your tone, your timing, and your emotional energy. And from that space, even a few words can carry deep emotional weight. A woman who speaks from emotional clarity and presence becomes unforgettable in relationships. She does not need to raise her voice or dominate conversations to be heard. Her calmness speaks for her. Her words feel intentional instead of reactive. People trust her because she is not constantly shifting emotionally in unpredictable ways. She is steady. This does not mean she hides her emotions. It means she understands them before expressing them. And because of that, her communication becomes something people respect rather than resist. Her presence becomes a form of emotional grounding for others. This does not mean suppressing your truth or pretending to be calm when you are not. It means allowing your truth to settle before expressing it. A woman once told her therapist, "I feel like I am always too much for people." And her therapist responded, "It is not that you are too much. It is that your emotions speak before they are fully understood by you. Rested truth has power, but unprocessed truth becomes reaction." So before speaking, ask yourself whether your emotions have had time to settle, because truth that comes from stillness is always received more deeply than truth that comes from chaos. There is an invisible force behind every sentence we speak. It is the alignment between what we think, what we feel, and what we say. When these three are in harmony, communication becomes powerful, calm, and trustworthy. But when they are disconnected, our words lose strength. They may still be heard, but they are not truly felt. Alignment is not about perfect speech or rehearsed communication. It is about honesty with yourself before expression. When your inner world is stable, your outer expression naturally becomes clear, and people feel that stability even without explanation. In relationships, misalignment slowly breaks emotional trust. A woman may say, "I'm fine," while internally feeling hurt and disconnected. A man may agree outwardly while feeling resistance inside. Over time, these small contradictions create emotional distance. People begin to sense that something is not fully honest, even if nothing is openly wrong. Now imagine the opposite. When someone speaks from inner alignment, their words feel clean and direct. There is no hidden emotional message beneath them. What they say is exactly what they feel. And that simplicity creates emotional safety and openness between people. There was a woman in a relationship who often experienced emotional distance from her partner whenever she tried to talk about their future. He would become quiet, avoidant, or distracted. At first, she thought he simply did not care, so she tried harder. She explained more, argued more, and tried to convince him emotionally. But the more she pushed, the more he withdrew. Eventually, she realized that her communication was not coming from clarity, but from fear. Fear of losing him was shaping her words more than truth was. So she stepped back from reacting and returned to herself. She journaled, reflected, and began reconnecting with her own emotional stability. When she spoke again, her energy had changed. She was no longer chasing reassurance. She said calmly, "I have realized I was speaking from fear, and I do not want that between us. I want to build something real that only if we both feel the same." There was no pressure in her tone. And for the first time, he did not withdraw. Instead, he stayed present because alignment creates emotional safety. In the end, everything comes back to one simple truth. The power of your communication is never just in your words, but in the state you are in when you speak them. When a woman is aligned within herself, calm in her body, clear in her emotions, and honest in her expression, her presence naturally becomes steady and grounding. She no longer needs to force understanding or chase connection. Instead, she creates a space where truth can exist without fear, without pressure, and without confusion. This is not about being perfect or never feeling strong emotions. It is about learning to pause long enough to understand them before expressing them. Because when your emotions are processed, your words become clearer, your boundaries become healthier, and your connections become more real. People do not only respond to what you say, they respond to the energy you carry when you say it. And when that energy is calm and aligned, communication becomes something that builds trust instead of tension. So the real shift is simple but powerful. Speak less from reaction and more from awareness. Speak less from urgency and more from clarity. And most importantly, speak from a place where your truth is steady inside you before it ever reaches someone else. Because when your inner world is aligned, your outer expression naturally follows. And in that alignment, your voice does not just communicate, it connects, it calms, and it stays with people long after the moment has passed.